Good morning, everybody. And today we're going to be doing an RPR training. And I'm excited to do the RPR training today because they actually made some, differences, and they created some changes to their user interface, as well as added some new cool features that I'm going to be excited to go over with you guys today. So this video will most likely be added to the Agent Academy by next week, which you guys can access through the First Realty Center. And then, from then, since this is the first video, we're going to definitely add on to it because there's a lot of, different features that you can actually use through RPR. So I know I've done a couple of these in the past. Some of you might have seen me do an RPR training in the past. However, there is going to be some differences to this one just because of the differences in user interface as well as the added feature. However, if you guys do like this one, if you guys do request it, we will make more complex videos going into opportunity zones, as well as really deep diving through the CMAs and even some of the features to prospect for buyers and sellers, because I know that that's a really popular topic in this market. So again, this is going to be more of like a general video for you guys to watch, to understand some of the key differences with the user interface, as well as some of the key features. And then we'll be adding videos to this in the next few weeks with, recordable material so that you guys can kind of see how it's done. But just getting started, how we often do, I'm going to show you how to create an account with RPR as well as just log in. So RPR is very easy to find. It's from the National Association of Realtors. You can just find RPR by typing it into Google itself. I'm just going to remove myself. Okay, so perfect. So on Google, if you type in RPR, it should be the first one that ends up popping up. So logging in with RPR or getting started with RPR is going to link you to two different screens, whether or not you have an account that you already logged in, which I do, so I could just click on log into RPR, or getting started with the RPR, and it will link you to this page to create an account. So creating an account with RPR. It's fairly easy to do, like that process in general. It shouldn't take more than a few minutes, but creating the RPR account does require your NRDS number, which, since it's from the National Association of Realtors, you do need your NRDS number in order to log in. So how do you go about finding that? You can, if you don't know what your ID is, I'll show you how to do that in a second. Otherwise, you can log in with your email for NRDS and include your last name, and that's well enough to create the account. But if you're like me and you don't remember exactly what email that you used when you created your NAR account, you can go to NRDS, and I'll show you guys how to do that really quick through NRDS lookup. And we might have this as a tile on the First Realty Center, and I'm just not aware of it. But find your NRDS, or NRDS lookup is what you want to click on. And you can enter your last name or email address. But again, we're assuming that you don't know what your email address is for this one. So we're going to enter last name and real estate number. And if you put in your real estate license number and your last name, it'll pop up with your NRDS number. And then you input it like that. You can either look up through this section or just Google it if you are needing it for something else, and just create the account. It's going to send you an email, and I believe you have 10 to 15 minutes in order to finish creating the account before you have to do that process again. But it is fairly simple. So getting started with the next section, you're going to notice some key differences with RPR in general, right? The user interface is completely different than we've seen in the past, and they made this recent change, in the past few months. But there's a lot of the same tools, but a lot of really cool features and quick notes for you guys to be able to utilize as well. So this is the new main page for RPR. So completely different than what we've seen before. It used to be that you had the, the search bar and all these different tabs that you could click on. And some of you were confused by it. I know that I was kind of confused by this as well. But I think it's just a lot cleaner than it used to be. So I do like the new features with RPR. So again, you still have your, your location bar that you can enter the location of any property, or you can enter in a specific town that you're looking to do research in. But before we get started in all that, just know that, if you don't have and when you're creating your account, it's going to walk you through the process of adding your different MLSs. So this is the be all end all for a lot of realtors when they're doing CMAs or doing market research in general, because it does link all of the accounts that you have with the MLSs to this portal. So that meaning that if you have 3 or 4 different MLSs and you're tired of going back and forth between different MLSs to do just basic research, or even create CMAs with these towns that are really close together, where sometimes, depending on where a town's located, there could be 2 MLSs right on the border of that. And rather than switching back and forth between different MLSs to get your comps, if they're, placed in the improper MLS, this will pull all of them. But you do need to add those in order to, and you have to have working status with that MLS and, an active account in order to utilize this platform. So you can do that by going to your settings and your profile and adding those things. Excuse me. Let's see right there. Sorry about that. And let me just put my phone on Do Not Disturb just so we have that. Great. So this is where you can add your profile picture, change your logo, add any of the office information that you want to have. And this stuff's important because, when you're creating your reports, when you're creating your CMAs, it's pulling directly from this information. So if you want it to be added and you wanted, the full report to be created, you definitely want to add more information. So as you scroll to the bottom, you're going to see the MLS or CIE information, and you can see I have 3 different MLSs linked up to this particular account. So I have my Central Jersey, I have my Garden State, and my Realty multiple listing service. Adding my MLS numbers and everything like that is going to give me access. It can see that I have the status of green, which means we're good to go, and it will pull that information. But going back to the main page, after you do set up your MLSs, this is what the front page looks like. So don't get too confused yet if you've been using RPR or you haven't used it in a while and this looks different. I promise you it's fairly straightforward and simple to use. So a few things that I want to do first. I want to show you guys how to do just basic research in the town, but also I think prospecting for clients is going to be a really good place to start. Again, we're going to get into opportunity zones later. I know we have a training later this month that's going to be about that. So I'll most likely just do the RPR training on opportunity zones and how to research them, later on after we do the formal training so that you guys better understand that in general. So we'll be searching using a map, creating a report in general, and going over the CMAs. And then we'll leave the opportunity zones and investor analysis for a later date. But I think that they make it very simple this time to actually get the information before you had to go to the NAR blog in order to find all those videos. But a lot of the learning tools and videos for how to use this platform are a lot more easily accessible. And also when you're logging in for the first time, or even if if it's only been a few times that you're on, it does have a little tutorials to walk you through different processes. So I've been through this platform, multiple times already. So sometimes it will pop up with those tools, and I'll show you guys if they do pop up. But if not, you'll see what I mean when you actually get started in the program. So doing research for a town, they have their own tab that says specifically for research right now. So we could do a map search and find out, what properties are listed, what's active, what's just closed and whatnot. But that's not what I want to start with. What I want to start with is just gaining general knowledge about a town. So whether that be that you're going on a listing appointment and you want to know the town that you're doing a little bit better, or if you're going to be, researching an area and getting more proficient as a buyer's agent, I'm going to show you how to use this platform to do that as well. So going into the research tab, and what I first want to do is a neighborhood search, because I want to know an area or a neighborhood a little bit better. And some of you guys have seen me do this, so it looks a little bit different with the new user interface. But a lot of the information ends up being the same, right? So let's say I am new to East Brunswick and I want to use this platform to get to know East Brunswick a little bit better. You can either enter a neighborhood within East Brunswick or just enter a zip code and get a more general outline of the town itself. So I'm just going to do a more general outline and just add East Brunswick to the search. And I could do an exact type, which just means it's going to be searching specifically in East Brunswick. If I want to do within East Brunswick, it'll give me a breakdown of the different neighborhoods within East Brunswick, or nearby, it'll give me the towns surrounding it. And we're going to get into all of that in a little bit, but we'll stick with exact right now. Max median estimated value. Again, this is just further tools to be able to break down exactly what you're looking for if you wanted to stay within a particular value in the town. And minimum change of over 12 months change in value. So I might want to break that down. And this, for me, I haven't seen this feature before. I started using the new platform. I think that this is one of the features that they ended up adding. But I think it's really interesting that you can really dial into the numbers now and get to know the platform a little bit better and use it more to your advantage. So with all that aside, we're just going to keep this search basic. And you can take this platform as deep as you want. But we're going to start with East Brunswick, and let's see what the search ends up being. So as you guys can probably tell, you have a few different features that pop up. You have a summary, housing, people, economy, and quality of life, which are the same tabs that they have before, but they changed their scheme a little bit. Now you have the map on the right-hand side that you can expand, and this is going to show you the entire territory of East Brunswick itself. We can click on the map and actually expand it if we want to. We could zoom in to the map and use that map search to be able to break down more information like the boundaries of different school districts. And we can research properties that are active or just closed within a particular area that revolves around a particular school, whether it be a high school or a public school or a private school. But let's just take a look at the information that it provides already, right? So I think it provides like excellent information for just general knowledge if you just do a basic search, and then it allows you to go even deeper, past that point. So right at the summary, it shows us the median estimated value and the change within the last month. So it's taking all of the data of the closed properties within East Brunswick and it's doing an average of those percentage increases. And then it shows on average what the changes in the last 12 months. Again, this is including like all of the condos and townhomes at this point in time, along with the single family homes. So there are nuances. There are things that you might want to change if you're looking for general information. But that being said, this is still a good tool to at least get some general information. You could expand or collapse any of the parts that you're not interested in, or in about this data too will break down a little bit more about the data that you have. So we can look at it from all the years and see that it is trending upwards. So if you had a seller that is asking, approximately like how much have properties increased over the last 12 months. Again, if we just wanted to say about East Brunswick in general, and we didn't want to talk about, a particular section like Colonial Oaks or Frost or what have you, and we just wanted to say like a blanket statement in general, we could give that information with it up here, which I know a lot of you guys too are getting into creating videos on your social media pages, as well as like providing information about particular towns. And I just think that this platform is probably the easiest to get that, because like searching for this type of information or calculating this information is a lot harder on Central Jersey MLS to find, and it can be a lot more cumbersome too. So when it comes to creating videos on your platform, or even emailing videos to your clients in a particular area that you're looking to stay in front of to try and prospect for buyers and sellers, this is just your one-stop shop for that. And it's like super easy. Like at the end of the month, you can just say like, okay, property values increased by 1.6%. And over the last 12 months, it's been 6.72%. So you could tell that this past month was like a hotter month in general, because, if it's increased at 6 or close to 7% of the last 12 months, and this last month was closer to 2%, you know that a lot of properties have sold for a lot higher during this month. So we could look at it from, the past year. We could change it to 2 years, 3 years, or all years that they end up having as active, as well as look at the median sales price versus sales volume. So like I'm a numbers guy personally, so this information is very useful to me and like how I like prospect to clients in general. But taking a look at the median sales price versus listing price and whatnot gives you a better idea of what properties are listed for and what they sell for, which are obviously two different numbers. You can look at the sales volume as well. So you can see that like on average, that like the sales are going like up and down, like based off of like the listing inventory itself. So again, making videos for your clients or just better understanding the market in general. Like I use this tool to be able to get that information. Median listing price versus listing volume. You can kind of, take a look at that data and better understand it as well as looking at listing volume, this is all really interesting to me as well, because, you hear people say this all the time of like, oh, we have a lack of inventory right now. We have a lack of inventory. And on this type of scale, you can actually see it. Which again, we're entering like spring and summer markets, but you can see that, a year from now, even in April, we had much more of a listing volume than we do right now, which you guys obviously can feel and also see, based off of the multiple offer situations that everybody's encountering and the crazy prices that you're paying for homes at this point. Some more information that may or may not be like relevant to you, but this is good information to send to your client if they did have an information on a town. Like let's say they're coming from New York and they just have no idea the different, dynamics of these towns as they're coming to New Jersey. I would definitely, research using RPR and creating reports in order to send to them so that they better understand these towns. And this is just an adding to your value prop of why somebody should be working with you in the first place. Because we have all of these tools to be able to find the information on these towns. You don't have to go to multiple websites to kind of find out this information. It's all compiled, through NAR's site. You can find the population based off of age group and just more information in general for that. So you can check out on the right-hand side, we're going to go over, the map view, which we'll spend some time on that specifically. So I won't touch that right now, as well as the information that would pop up if we change the search to, nearby, essentially. So we can see the neighborhoods surrounding East Brunswick and how they stack up in terms of median estimates. Again, this is just giving us a snapshot of the towns surrounding us. So we have South River, we have Milltown, we have Spotswood. And if you change the location, it's going to take all the towns that are like surrounding East Brunswick or whatever town you decide to choose and showing you based off of that information. So you might be looking to invest in Zillow, or you might be looking to just better help your clients understand like where they can afford properties, where they can't. And you might get a lead in for East Brunswick and they say like, hey, listen, like I don't want to, to spend more than about, $375 for a property. Well, you would know that if you just kind of like research just based off of, a quick search about like, single families or multifamilies or even like condos and townhomes, that you can see the median, sales price of East Brunswick is $429. So is $375 going to be like an easy find for somebody? It depends on what they're looking for. If you would say single family home, probably not. But, just even doing like a quick search and, just understanding the surrounding markets better, you'd say like, oh, maybe we'd have a better chance in South River since the median estimate is $352 there. Or, Milltown ends up being, slightly cheaper than East Brunswick. So we should probably look there as well as Spotswood and North Brunswick and maybe Sayreville. So this is really good tool for if you get a new lead in an area or you're doing an open house for somebody and you don't know the town very well, this is a really good tool to be able to say like, okay, are we going to find what my client's looking for in this town, or do we need to expand on our search and look for the surrounding towns? You can see like the amount of homes that they just have in general in those areas. So you can kind of see how big the towns are or how small the towns are in general. Or like right now you can see like Helmetta is, much smaller in terms of population size, as well as the amount of homes that are, that they have in Helmetta, and just, on average be able to tell somebody whether or not they're going to find what they're looking for. The schools nearby, again, they're pulling from, I believe, greatschools.org, which is probably a platform that you use and defer your clients over to when they're asking for school ratings and whatnot. But it does pull and show on RPR as well. and you can, really get to know the schools of a town better, as well as send over this information to your client. So before we move on from that, I'm going to just kind of show you guys, a few more things regarding this research tab. And just let me check 1 second. So rather than doing exact, I'm just going to show you guys the within tab, just to show you guys the differences. And these are like the different neighborhoods, right, within East Brunswick itself. And it's going to have a further breakdown. So let's say, again, you're creating videos for your clients, or you're creating video content on your various social media platforms, and you want even more specific information. Like, let's say you live in one of these, neighborhoods within East Brunswick or whatever town that you end up living in, and you're looking to farm specifically to those people. It has a more dynamic breakdown of the different platforms, whether it be Briar Ridge in Middlesex County to Carriage Square, Middlesex County to Cedar Village. Like, it'll show you an actual breakdown and the change in pricing, or the change in sales in that particular community. And you actually have a breakdown. So, you can see the median list price for those homes, the median days in RPR, which, it's very similar to the days active on the MLS. Anything that's listed in the MLS, it's pulling from that information in general. So median days in NPR is just like saying the same thing as active days in the MLS, although that information might not be as accurate. And from my understanding from this portal, you can't look up, the property history as easily. So in the MLS, if it says, okay, it was on the market for 15 days, well, you could actually see probably a little bit more information about that. But, just for, blanket research, it does help. Homes in the particular neighborhoods, again, like the change in values, the median home prices, like all this stuff, really good information. And you'll have even more information on the side regarding the the change in median home value for a specific zip code in comparison to, the county and in comparison to New Jersey. So you can see the median estimated home value is up 6.7% in the past year in comparison to Middlesex County, which is up 7.4%, and New Jersey, which is up 8.2%. So, kind of bringing out of this page right here and taking a look at the research tab again, we could do all of the things that we just did, but through different means of just doing a school search. Like, let's say they're not interested in the neighborhood, like all of the neighborhood aspects or the median home values and like the changes and whatnot, but they just want to know the school search or the school district. You could do the school search right there. You can do a residential market activity search, which is a lot of the same information we just saw, but just specific and, very like honed in on that particular subject. And if you do have any questions or you want, even more of a breakdown, they do have videos, not from a realtor's perspective, but they do have short videos for how to do all of these things that you could go to how to research, and they will have a video for that as well that I recommend that everybody checks out. We're going to take a little look at the map search, and we're going to stick to East Brunswick for this particular search. So by taking just a look at East Brunswick, we could, if we whittled down the properties from the 3,541 found, it will put it on the map for us, but we have just like a very large search criteria right now that we can always go through the filters and really like kind of hone in on rather than kind of just doing a blanket search for this particular area. So the map search ends up being like a really good feature for you guys to use. A lot of you have probably seen similar features on the MLS, but I do like the map search on RPR a little bit better. And before we move forward with that, I kind of wanted to go into some of the reports that you can create, as well as the CMA feature. So you might say like, okay, like, why would I use the CMA feature on this versus the MLS? Well, I'm actually going to show you. And I've used this before, so I'm kind of glad that they're actually having like a CMA. So again, for the more complicated features, they do have pop-ups to show you how to do it, which we'll walk through together, even though, I've used this platform before. So just essentially saying like, okay, we can input a property address, which I'll use a property that's actually outside of East Brunswick. I'll do a property I sold to one of my clients that was an investment property a few years back. And he might ask me, how much is this property worth now? And I could go about showing that to him. So you have the information here. You have an estimated value. And just looking at this page, we're going to break this down, but it does have some good information about the property already. However, there are some features that are a little bit off that we're going to get into. So RPR, like what is it actually doing right now? Well, it's doing a lot of the same things that Zillow would do for, their Zestimate, except it's being a little bit more straightforward in my opinion. So you're looking up a property and it's going to give you an estimated home value of this property as well. However, I know the area fairly well, and I'd be very surprised if these numbers were completely accurate. These do seem a little bit higher, but I know the Bloomfield market is going crazy right now, and although you might be able to get somewhere close to this, I just know that in my opinion, this is not like the most accurate. So taking a look at some of these basic facts, and then also the additional information that they have, we're going to kind of see like why or why not we might be like confident in these numbers. So basic home facts, it includes the square footage if it has it. It shows like the homeowner, the property subtype. Like we know that this is a 3-family. Last sold was 425 in 2017. So again, if it went up to a 650, that'd be great, which it's probably somewhere in the high 5s to low 6s at this point in time. We can actually take a look at the AVM estimated home value range, and it's giving us a value range between 512 and 784, and the AVM confidence ends up being like the score that it gives with its confidence in its home value. So right now we can see that it has a 2 out of 5. So am I going to take that number completely serious? The the 784 or even the 750? Not really, because it knows. So rather than just give you an estimate and kind of leave you to it, it actually does tell you whether or not it feels confident in giving you that number. So it could be pulling from a few different sources, and it doesn't necessarily know everyone's square footage. And if it doesn't have access to the square footage because it wasn't put on the MLS or it's not pulling correctly, it will lower the confidence level in which it gives you, which is great because that's going to make you a little bit more confident. Are these numbers serious or not? So giving you all the information that it would normally have if you're doing a neighborhood search and whatnot, but you might not be looking at that right now, we're going to take a look at. So let's go to the feature where we actually create a CMA for this particular property. It's going to give you a few different options here. And it will prompt you to confirm the home facts first, which I've done for this one already in the past, but it will prompt you to tell you how many bedrooms and bathrooms it does have in the property, as well as verify the square footage and some other features as well. So that's the first step to the process. And I like this feature because it actually gives you a breakdown of how you should be going about creating a CMA in general. But before we even get into that, we have two different options. We have comparative analysis. So build an estimate based off of the comps, and a sales comparative analysis. And it's nice enough to give you a link to break down the difference. And I've clicked on that link before. It essentially just says that the comparative analysis is what most realtors use. You're using past sales in order to essentially build an estimated value of the property. Whereas the sales comparison approach, it does a lot of the same things, except it gives you a lot more options. And they say that it's more of like what an appraiser would use to break down the valuation of the home. So we're going to stick to doing a traditional CMA because I think that's what most people are going to end up using. And the second step is actually searching for the comps. So once you click search for the comps, it's going to create a search like we would normally use on the MLS for active, pending and closed. But for this CMA, I just want closed properties and I just want multifamilies. So I can do it within the last 6 months, bedrooms and bathrooms, like a minimum range. And, I'll probably eliminate 3,400 square feet and just keep it to 3,000. Specific price range, I just know that, even 2 families in Bloomfield are not going, below like 425. So I'm going to keep the range from 450 to 850 just because, I don't want to really see anything that's below that range. I just don't think it's going to be good comps personally. Year built, like I might even take that out specifically. But once you have all the information that you want and you can expand on this and add more information, you can create a search. So based off of our search right here, comes up with these properties. This is all within the last 6 months. Also with this map feature, I could just draw, a box around a radius or a polygon around a particular area if I wanted to exclude anything that I don't think would be a good comp using a custom area or creating a new one. I'd use it within the zip, within a macro neighborhood, intermediate neighborhood, and don't worry too much about this stuff. Again, that's like a deep dive that we can go in on a different video, but I just wanted to keep it basic for you guys right now. So now we have the comps up here, and we have this, crazy range, for multifamilies. It wouldn't be like this necessarily for like a condo or a townhome, but I just kind of wanted to show you guys this information. So it says 11 properties found to use as comps. We can just do a quick view of the differences between these listings, or we could click on this and see a more comprehensive breakdown and find more information about the property. So, a closed price for a multifamily, we're seeing 6 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2,000 square feet. If I add this comp, it's going to push our, value a little bit higher. But let me just show you guys, because I did an example before using this, so it's pulling some of the same comps that I ended up using. So let me just show you first. And this is how you remove any comps that you wanted to have. So comps being used is on the right-hand side, and this is where we can actually scroll through and choose which ones we want to do a comp with, and it'll show us in real time what values it believes that it should be using. So let's say I wanted to use this as a comp. I analyzed the property. I said, yes, this is good. It provides me the MLS information. I might have a second screen up with, Garden State MLS just to be able to kind of have both going at the same time, but I'm just going to assume this is a good comp. And based off of its square footage, based off of the bedrooms, bathrooms, and when it was built, it's already giving me an estimated value based off of the square footage and the information that I input into the system that, it believes if this property that's only 2,000 square feet sold for 510, that we should be in the 660 range, which we can update the evaluation, remove the comps, or kind of just alter these comps at a later point in time. But just for this circumstances, I'll show you. I know this property is going to bring down the value because it's 2,400 square feet and it closed at 500,000. So I assume that this number of the 661 is going to go down, assuming I didn't look into anything like if this was an REO or if this needed like a complete gut job or anything like that. Now it's giving us a range of 559 to 661. So again, you want to make sure that you say like, oh, these comps are good before adding them. But I'm just going to, just for demonstration's sake, just select a few of these and then show you guys afterwards how this is looking. So once we get all the properties that we want to use as comps, again, definitely want to use 3 to 5 if possible. That's when we can update the valuation and close. So now it's giving us a range of about $100,000, which is not ideal for when I'm creating comps, but for right now, we'll just say that that's good enough. And then it brings us back to the main page. So we did number 1, we confirmed the home facts, we've updated it, it's checked off. We search for the comps, it's giving us a range between the 559 and 663. of an average of 627, which is much better and much closer to what I think the property would end up being worth. But it does give us the ability to adjust the comps in general, which I want to be able to show you guys and kind of do that as well. So adjusting the comps, depending on which MLS you use the most frequently, this is going to look fairly similar, but I think it brings some, good features that are a little bit different from the MLS as well. So it tells you how many comps that you have on the property and allows you to adjust based off of this. So how does this property compare to the subject? It gives you like this bar, right, of where you can adjust the bar, and it's going to adjust the values for these particular homes. So if you've been to all these properties and it says, okay, this closed, but I know that this is much, worse, then I could slide the scale and it's going to automatically give me, a certain value that this is going to increase, the value of the property. Or I could say, hey, this property is better on a sliding scale, and it's going to adjust my results down. So, and you can see it happening in real time, like value based off of the comp estimated price per square footage. After you make the adjusted results, it's now saying, if I say, okay, this property is sold at 510 is better in comparison to, the overall condition of the property, whether that be the exterior, interior, or both, it's going to adjust that number down. So I don't know these comps too well because this is just an example, but let's just assume that this is a little bit better. This one is a little bit worse. So now you can kind of see that these play off of each other, right? And it actually tells you how much value it's changing based off of that sliding scale. So let's say I did think that the property is worth like somewhere between 6 and 625, and these are the the numbers that I've gotten, and now I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit more confident, and I can show this to my client of saying like, all right, like an appraisal report essentially shows you this. Now you can kind of see how RPR does a lot of those same things. Stacks up the square footage as well as lot sizes if you have it. I could add the lot size if I wanted. Whether or not it has detached garages, I know that this one does too. I could add that as a fact as well. And this is where you can actually make notes, which will include into the report if you decide to do so. So based off of these adjustments, it brought my value down by $12,000. I could update the value and close. So now I'm like closer to the range that I believe it is based off of like the comps and what I decided to do. And now I can actually create a report. So I could do a seller's report, which is 81 pages long. I have never sent an entire seller's report to somebody before. You can actually break down and take out some of the pages from this report, and you can actually see, view example. It'll give you an example of the report itself, which I don't want to spend too much time on because, again, this is like a very lengthy report, but there might be some pages that you like more than others. But you shouldn't be walking into a listing appointment and saying like, oh, I just don't have enough information to wow the homeowner or wow the seller, because I think that RPR provides enough already. Even if you wanted to just bring an RPR report in some of your marketing material, I would say that you'd have more than enough to wow the seller. So you could do a property report, which is just based off of this particular property. It's going to limit the amount of pages down to 28, and you can actually see the breakdown of what it includes in comparison to a full seller's report. You could do a property flyer. Could do a mini property report, a valuation workbook, which is probably going to be very similar to, an appraisal report. I haven't used the evaluation workbook. I've only done reports on property reports and sellers reports, as well as marketing activity, neighborhood activity. Like these are in the school pages as well. All of these are going to be included in the property report. That's why that particular report is 81 pages long. But now you can kind of see the types of information that you can include into this report itself. And it will brand to your particular page. It'll pull the picture that you've added, as well as your information like your email address and your phone number. And you can customize it and choose what you'd like to include on this report itself. Once you've selected a report and you want to actually create it, you click Run Report, and I'll show you guys in a little bit what that'll end up looking like. But you can also personalize the report and send it directly through RPR. So If you want to run the report, it will allow you to download it, and then you can email it specifically to your client, or you can include, or you could just email it directly to somebody and send them the property report directly through this. I personally like to download it and email it over to my clients so I can have it sent directly through my email in an email thread that I most likely already have with somebody created, but you can send it directly from them as well. You can customize the report by inputting the information of the sellers or buyers if you're running a report for the buyers themselves, and just say, just add a little blurb and make sure that the report is being sent directly to them. You can display now, open, or a PDF like that. If I run the report, it's going to give me the ability to download, or I can email it to myself or a client or somebody else that I'm doing the report for in general. But if I do click run report, this is the page that ends up popping up. This will automatically close after like 10 seconds, but the report's not ready just yet. It takes a little bit of time to create. It only takes roughly around a few minutes to do, but it will notify you when that report is actually done. So that being said, if you're creating multiple reports, it will take roughly about like 5 to 10 minutes. It's saying for the property report, it's finalizing right now, and it will show a completed tab, and it will like automatically start downloading when it is finished with that. But that is just a basic way to do the CMA and kind of play around with the different tools that it uses for evaluations in general. And that's, I think, a good place to just kind of stop right now. We're taking a look at, some of this other information that you could use for the research tab, as well as marketing and prospecting for clients. And yeah, actually, before we wrap this up, I want to show you guys a little bit of the prospecting tools for residential clients. So you could either click for prospect for clients. You can choose between buyers and sellers. I'm going to show you guys sellers right now because I know everybody is looking to uncover some listings, and it's going to walk us through this process in general. So research, let's click the map search. First, make sure you have residential toggled. So you can use this platform to search for residential and commercial. We're going to stick specifically to residential at this time. And we'll do East Brunswick again. And now you can see that it just popped up. The report has been completed, and now you can download it when you're ready. I'm not going to bother doing that right now because I don't need it. So now we're prospecting for sellers in East Brunswick. Expand the filters. Change it to public records because obviously we're not looking for anything that is currently for sale or for lease because we're not allowed to prospect those, and also they've already been listed. We could do it based off of single family, condo, townhomes, mobile homes, anything, lots and land. Like a lot of you that are looking for lots and land opportunity, like this is definitely a good tool to uncover some vacant lots that somebody might be interested in selling. But let's stick to single family for right now. We could look for a specific price range, and it's going to show us how many we have right now. So now it's saying 5,000 plus. In order to be effective, we definitely want to, narrow that list down and kind of look at some of these, different features that it's saying. So we could narrow down this list from like a specific sell, like an amount sold, or from a sold date itself, the size of the property. You can choose whether or not you're excluding any pre-foreclosure short sales or bank-owned properties in general. Lots and lands, which is great. You can actually search for like what it's actually zoned for, which is really good too. I think that this is probably going to be the most useful tab when it comes to prospecting. You can check off whether or not they're owner occupied or an absentee owner. So for multifamilies, you might want to do absentee owners. For people that you're looking to send a mailer to for just a single family, you might want to do an owner occupied for that. But we still have like way too much data right now in order to be effective. So we're going to kind of check some of these boxes. And then owner occupied, time owned, which is a great tool as well. We could say, 15 to 20 plus years. Like if we're marketing specifically for somebody that might be looking to depending on what area we're looking for, move to an adult community or downsize or something like that, or potentially move to the area and retire to Florida, which is, the typical path that we end up seeing in New Jersey. So using these filters, I still think that this is a little bit much for me personally, but for this example, let's just go for properties between 300 and 500,000 for whatever reason. Now we have 762. Let's do 10 to 15. 606. And let's say this is like a good enough number that we're actually looking to prospect with. We can update the search. Look at this list, and let's say, we wanted to create a mailing campaign specifically for this. This is where we are able to either create a report for us to better analyze the data or create mailing labels in general. I know a lot of you use either the tax record or the MLS, but again, I think that this is a little bit easier. You can create either a CSV if you're looking for it to be separated by commas, and that's the platform that you're using. You could do a PDF version of it as well. And these are all the different mailing label formats that you can print in. Address type, you could do the tax billing. If you know that they're going to be absentee homeowners, that's most likely what you would want to be selecting, or you could just do the address for the property itself. You could do filters based off of owner-occupied or absentee owners, as we previously mentioned, and we can go ahead and click print, and it even gives you, an RPR partner for premium mailing labels and, all of that good stuff. So that's just one feature, and I will make another video specifically on using RPR to prospect for buyers and sellers. But again, this video would just last hours if we were to do so. So again, this is just to kind of show you, what changes were made recently and why I'm kind of excited about them, as well as, the different tabs that we're going to get into in the future, like the investor analysis, the opportunity zones, and really just diving into prospecting for clients. But this is the first video, and that's where we'll end today. So thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next training.